Hello, greetings, and welcome to Storytime with Stephanie. I am your host, Stephanie Outen, and it is my honor and my privilege to show up every other week to share with you powerful stories of transformation. And tonight is no different. So I am excited about the guest that we have tonight, which is Shaqwana Reed. Shaqwana Reed is the author of Recipes to a Healed and Happy Life, a healing journey with recipes for life and the kitchen. Along with being an author and a co author in a few projects, Shaqwana wears many different hats. She's a wife, mom, minister, life coach, a sister, and a friend. She's the president and founder of Sister Lift Inc., which is a 501c3 nonprofit organization that helps women recover and heal from traumatic life experiences. Shaqwana's motto in life is, "It was necessary," because she believes that no matter what happens in our life, it was necessary for us to overcome it and help others do the same. Shaqwana also is a co-coach with her husband, Chellis Reed, over Couples Night Out Couples Ministry. And Shaqwana has a passion for seeing people live a healed, happy, and whole life. And it shows in all that she does, from her food to her hugs. You will never leave her presence not knowing what love is. And let me tell y'all something. This woman is a true woman of God. She's a powerful minister. She is an amazing woman who just loves people deeply. And so here on Storytime with Stephanie, which is a segment of the Writer's Anointing podcast, where we give tips, tricks, and tools in the writing process to help you release your writer's anointing. Shaqwana she released her writer's anointing in her first book, Recipes to a Healed and Happy Life. So everyone who's joining us live or on the replay, I want to introduce you all to Shaqwana M. Reed. Shaqwana, are you with us?
Yes. Hi, Stephanie.
Hey, Shaqwana. How are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm great. I see you over there in the drama-free zone.
Always, girl. Always, always, always.
Oh, I'm so happy to have you with us, Shaqwana. It is my honor. It is my privilege. Y'all, I have known Shaqwana for maybe 4 years now. We
Yep.
actually go to the same church, Center for Manifestation, here in Tampa, Florida. And let me tell y'all something. Just knowing Shaqwana, being in her presence, feeling her spirit, it is unmatched. It is unmatched. And then when I had the opportunity to be a part of her, I'm gonna say it was kind of like a book launch when you did that dinner with your book.
Yep.
That transformed me, and it changed my
I
life.
forgot you were there.
Yes, I was there. And that was my first opportunity to hear your story and get the book. And I tell you, I just recently reread it again because I like to be fresh on the stories. And
Mhm.
just reading your story, it brought me to tears all over again. It brought me to tears because, I being a woman who walked through some of the same things that you walked through in your life and seeing how God took you over every hurdle and how even when you didn't realize it was Him. You came out
Yes.
on the other side. And
Oh
so
my God.
I want us to talk a little bit about some of the things that you experienced. And what I will share with everyone is y'all got to get this book. And I'm going to tell you why. Because when she calls it Recipes to a Healed and Happy Life, y'all, Shaqwana is an amazing cook. She is a fire baker. Okay, fire baker. And this woman has recipes for every aspect of her life in this book. And I'm telling y'all, if you get this book, just know that you're going to put on about 20 pounds, but it's going to be 20 of the best pounds you ever put on. You hear me? You hear me? Okay. So, Shaqwana, let's start a little bit from the beginning of your story, where you kind of give us a glimpse into what you were walking through in your first chapter, which you call pan sauteed acceptance. And you gave kind of just an overview of some of the things that you had walked through in life, your first marriage, the challenges that you were experiencing in that marriage. Tell us a
Mhm.
little bit about those things, because that's what laid the foundation for who you became and who you are today.
Oh, yes. So, first of all, thank you for having me on. I'm so honored, Stephanie. But, oh, yes. So, talk about a journey. I was married before my first marriage from the time that I was 19 until I was like 29 or 30. And as I stated, in the beginning of my book, like never to try to bash what happened or who it happened with, just to share my truth. But I was a teenager full of voids, did not know my self worth. And I was in a marriage for 11 years. I had been with him since I was 17 years old. I met him when I was 17. And it was just a lot. And I think now that I think back, like he had a lot of healing to do too, but it was a lot of verbal abuse, which sometimes felt like it was physical. That's how bad it was. And like towards the end of the marriage, that's when the infidelity started. I mean, we had been together like maybe 10 years or 9 years. And yeah, so I didn't realize how broken I was until the infidelity started and he left. And then I realized that um, I had put on my self-worth and just being a wife, just being happy to be with someone, looking for love. So that was the beginning.
Okay, and let me stop you right there because you
I know.
said
I was
something.
like, let me.
You said something so key. You said there were voids. You had these voids. And when you got married, essentially you were using that marriage and that time with your first husband to fill these voids that you had
Mhm.
as a young girl and as a teenager.
Yeah.
And, you all who watch this show, me, I will share, even parts of my own journey where I may have walked through some of the same things that the author went through. And I think so many times women and men, we go into relationships broken. We
Yeah.
don't discover what it is that's keeping us in this place of trauma. We don't try to do the work to figure out where the voids are coming from, where the holes are in our soul. And so we end up in these relationships with other broken people. And now we just have one broken mess. And that's what you were in, a broken mess. Right.
Yep. Yep.
And even during that time, you were very active in church, right? Not the
Yes.
church where you are today, but you were in another church, very active,
Yep.
serving in the ministry. And so was your then husband.
Yep.
Now, talk about what you experienced in this broken relationship in the church, the place where you would go for healing. What were some of the challenges that you were facing during that time?
Oh. Well, if I can be completely honest,
Yes, you can.
there was a lot of religion.
Mhm.
So not only was I dealing with what I was dealing with in the relationship, then dealing with my wounds that I brought into this from childhood, but now I am being beat on top of the head with religion. So all the way around, I'm just feeling like, yeah, I'm not enough. Like I'm never gonna be enough for anyone. Like, because my grandmother raised me. So to me as a child growing up, oh, your mother and your father left you.
Mm.
Now your husband leaving you. And then when I um decided to leave the church, everybody that I knew that was close to me, then they were no longer speaking to me. So it's like
Mm.
wherever where you go, people are gonna just leave you. So
Mm.
rejection and abandonment were like
Mm.
these twins sitting on my shoulders my
Yeah.
whole life.
Yeah. Ooh. And when you are in that place of rejection and abandonment, which was two of the biggest soul wounds that I experienced as
Yes.
well in my life, it puts you in a place of feeling like you are never good enough, that
Yep.
no one ever wants you. And so you end up in relationship after relationship with people who treat you like you're not good enough.
Mhm.
Right. And
Yep.
even in that experience with your first husband, and I had to crack up on this, but this was so true. You talked about is on page 10 of your book where you said when you discovered about the infidelity and what was going on, you said I turned into a mad woman. I was ready to fight, and oh, did I ever try. And anytime you saw this woman, you would come at her, right? but he would protect her. Your husband was protecting the mistress, and you were mad at her, right? Not to say that you weren't mad at him,
Oh,
because
I
you
was
were.
gonna say, Stephanie, I was mad at both of them.
You were mad at both of them. You were 38 hot. You wanted to come at this woman, right? Because you said she knew you and she knew both of you
Yeah.
together. And
Hmm.
so you were in a place of full on rage and anger.
Oh
What was
yeah.
that like for you during that time? Because knowing you now, I'm like, Shaqwana, you got mad. You were angry. I ain't never seen Shaqwana get upset. It's like,
Let me
whoo.
tell you, everybody says that even during that time, my people who knew me were so shocked that I had literally got like what?
Yeah.
It was like whatever. Like I laugh now, but I'm telling you, it took a lot. It took a lot of therapy. It took a lot of counseling. It took a lot of inner healing
Yeah.
for me to forgive myself for the way that I acted in that
Mm.
situation. But yeah, Stephanie, let me tell you, I'm gonna tell you a story. This is a
Okay.
true story. This is a true story, and
Okay.
I saw them, or I heard that they were going to be at a place. I was so mad. I had on my pajamas. I had on no shoes. I hopped in my car. I went to where they were, blocked her car in. It was like
Shaquana,
no,
hot
seriously,
mess.
hot, hot mess. Thank God she locked her car. I'm so grateful for God's grace and my stupidity. But when I look back, and this is why I have so much compassion for hurting people, because you
Mm.
never know where hurt will take you. Like
Ooh,
I would see women doing stuff like this, and I'd be like, "Oh, never say never.
never. That's
You
right.
never know where hurt and pain." It took me to
Ooh,
a place that I didn't even know existed on the inside of me.
my God.
Yeah,
My God.
yeah.
Look, I
I
think,
literally snapped. I
yeah.
have about a 3 month time period during this time.
Mhm.
This was like April 2009
Mhm.
to around May or June.
Mhm.
I don't remember anything. All I remember is getting up, going to work, going to
Mm.
church. Whatever else happened between that time, I still don't remember. I
My
don't remember.
God. You were blocked. You just blocked it out. You just blocked it out. And pain will do that to you,
Yep,
right? I
yep.
do pray, even for your own sake, the sake of what you don't even know is coming for you, that
Hmm.
those years become unblocked for you.
Yeah.
Because there's something in that time frame that you still need to know about and remember, right? It's that memory recall that you need to have, because it's going to actually help you to shift somebody else's life. So I pray
Yes.
that that becomes unblocked for you in a way that's not painful, right?
Right.
In a way that, because you're healed now and you remember it, you're like, oh God, thank you for bringing that to my remembrance, because now I
Pieces
can
of
use
it, they
that.
come back. Like
Yeah,
little bits and pieces come back. But
yeah,
I'm like, what was I doing? Like,
yeah.
what? Yeah.
And you even talk about how after that whole situation with the infidelity and the anger, you had let that anger settle in. But during that time, you had like a reality check, and you realized that the past 11 years that you had spent with this man, that he had become your full on identity. You didn't know yourself outside of him.
Yeah.
So, what was that thing, right? What was that situation that got you to the place of saying, enough is enough? I'm done.
Um, I I stepped back and I took a look at myself and I was
Mhm.
like, this is not you.
Yeah.
It was to the point, okay, so I've always been prophetic my
Yeah.
whole life. And you already know that the
Yeah.
enemy will try to taint your gifts, right? So
Yes.
I would be at work and I would literally hear she's at the house. I would leave work, had a
Mm.
great job. I'm not even called a company, a great job. I would leave work. When I tell you my mind was so gone, without clocking out, would just
Lord.
go and would get there. And every time I get there, she would be just pulling out of the driveway.
Oh
And
my
I
God.
never caught her thank God, inside the
Jesus.
house. But I lost my job because,
Oh Lord Jesus.
and it was great job. But at that point, I knew I had become so enraged, and this thing had overtaken me. So one night, I remember just being in I had got my first apartment alone. I think it's called Country Crossing over off of Sly, and that was
Mm-hmm.
my first apartment alone. And I would just remember crying, saying, God, like, you gotta let me get free, because I was told that divorce wasn't an option.
Mm-hmm.
I was being told that I need to hold on, I need to wait for God to do it. So I felt so bound. I was even bound to the point, well, that's a whole nother story. But I just was so bound because I was so afraid, because I had been told that if I get a divorce, I'm disappointing God, I'm going to hell,
Mm-hmm.
I'm this, I'm that. But I knew I could not stay in that, because I was angry. And I remember crying out one night saying, God, if you don't let me out of this,
Mm.
either somebody gonna be in hell or I'm gonna be in jail. Like,
Yeah.
that's how angry I was.
And even while you were having those conversations with God and you were hearing from him what it is that he desired for you,
Mhm.
you were also hearing the enemy's voice, because you had an encounter where you were hearing the enemy
Yeah,
basically telling you to take your own life, that you
yeah,
weren't valuable, that you weren't needed.
yeah.
And it's amazing how, even when we know God, we know his word, and we know how much he loves us. And Tammy says this is why it's important for us to have our own relationship with
Yes.
God. That's right. You can be in a place of still feeling so unworthy,
Yeah.
so not valuable, that the voice of the enemy will ring out louder than God's voice. And you
Mhm.
felt like you were at that place. Now, you
Yes.
had an experience on the Howard Franklin Bridge,
Yeah.
right? Tell us a little bit about that.
So I was working over in St. Pete, and I was working 3 to midnight. And during this time, because we went back and forth a few times where he left,
Mm-hmm.
then he came back, then he
Yeah.
left, and he came back. And every time he left again, it felt like it hurt worse than the
Mm-hmm.
first time.
Yeah.
So this last time, when I had that encounter, I would get off at midnight. So I'm coming home from St. Pete, coming over the Howard Franklin, and I would literally have to grip my steering wheel because it's pitch black. There's
Yeah.
hardly no
Mm-hmm.
cars on there. I can't swim. So this
Mm.
is how the enemy set this up. And I would hear exactly what I said before.
Yeah.
Your mom and dad left you.
Yeah.
This person left you. Your husband left you. Your church family done left you. What do you have to live for? Just go ahead and drive your truck over the bridge. Now, it was a
Mm.
Ford Explorer. So
Woo.
mind you, if I would have hit, it was going to go over
Yeah.
the bridge.
Right over.
And this is how, I always just get so grateful when I think about this part, because the enemy is so strategic. He
Mm.
knew that if that SUV had gone over the bridge in the middle of the night, basically 1 o'clock in the morning, nobody would have
Yeah.
stopped me. I
Yeah.
don't know how to swim.
Ooh,
There
Jesus.
was no rescuing me. There was no way. I was going to be done, like done, done.
Mm.
And that's how much he had literally set it up.
My God. Now that's a lesson for so many of us, that when you see all the variables coming into play for the
Mhm.
enemy to try to take you out,
Oh yeah,
there's destiny. There's destiny in you that he's trying to snatch, right? And it's not even always about us, it's about the purpose and the destiny in us that he's trying
yeah,
to kill. So he brings every distraction to try to put you in a place of, you know what, let me just take myself out, not even
yeah.
thinking about my purpose and my destiny. I'm gonna just take myself out because I'm not valuable, I'm not worth anything. And you said something that, ooh, and I have to bring myself to a place where I
I
don't
know.
cry. But when you were going through all this stuff, you said I had to adjust many variables about who I thought I was so that I would be able to be good enough again. I had to accept the fact that I allowed this to happen to me, allowed
Mhm.
it. No
Allow
matter
it.
what was going on, I permitted it. Now I had to find out why. It's the why. It's
Yes.
the why, right? We can say, wow, you know what? These things have happened to me, but you got to a place of saying it didn't just happen. I allowed it, I permitted it.
Mhm.
But why? And so when you ask that question, why, what came up for you? What bubbled up in your spirit that really got you to the place of discovering why? you were in that place of such brokenness and deep hurt that you would allow yourself to walk through the situations that you had at that point?
Oh, that's good, Stephanie. When I was able to just sit along with God, and even in the book, I call that my valley season. Because I felt like I was in a valley, which at one point the valley felt like a punishment. But when I actually got through that season, I realized that that valley season was my blessing.
Mm-hmm.
Like I needed to be alone. I needed to just hear God's voice for so long. Back to what Tammy said
Yeah.
about knowing God for yourself. For so long, I was taught that I had to depend on others to
Yes.
give me the voice of God. And I was taught to rely on somebody else's voice to assure what God was saying to me. But when I got in that valley, when everybody had walked away and nobody was talking to me, he was talking to me. And I
Yeah.
was able to hear his voice loud and clear. And when it
Yeah.
got to that why, it was like, okay, why am I allowing all of these people to do
Mm-hmm.
this to me? And it was because I literally had to go back to, like I was saying, that abandonment and rejection that had been following me from birth, really.
Yeah.
And once we realize what are the spirits attached to us from
Yeah.
birth that want
Yes.
to kill our destiny,
Woo.
we're able to go into the spirit realm and snatch those spirits
Yes.
and get into our purpose and our calling. So I'm called to those who've been rejected. I'm called to those who have been abandoned. And the enemy knew if he had me drive my truck over the bridge,
Ooh, Jesus.
that all of the people that I am able to minister to right now
Ooh,
would not
Jesus.
have Shaqwana. Not saying
Yes.
they wouldn't have somebody else, but they wouldn't be able to have me. And that was
Yeah.
his plan. And that's what I tell people, when the enemy really trying to get you to give up and give in, it's because he already know that it's something great that God's
Ooh,
about to
yes.
do with you and
Yes.
through you.
Yes. And I saw Shay's comment. She said sometimes we grow the most in the valley. And yes, we do.
Uh,
So we cannot ever reject the valley experiences. We got to
yes,
grow through those valley experiences. And Alicia says the why. That's the key. We
the
have to
why.
understand the why. What I love about this book too, Shaqwana, not only the story, and definitely not just the recipes, because God, I tell you, those recipes are powerful. They just make your mouth salivate. But the fact that you offer reflections, right? And you give these questions for the reader to think about.
Mhm.
And I said that I was going to share some of my own reflections based on what I had written years back when I first read this
Oh,
book.
okay.
So at the first chapter where you shared, about pan sauteed acceptance, you asked, how was this chapter relevant to me? And so I said at the time, which I think was probably 3-4 years ago when I read this the first time, I had to
Mhm.
reflect back on the things I allowed in my life because I was so desperately wanting to be loved. A sense of abandonment will do that to you when you don't know your identity as a woman and in Christ. And that was a big struggle for me. And it was something that you struggled with as well, right? We, just like you shared and I share as well, I was rejected in the womb, right? In the
Mhm.
womb, I experienced abandonment because when my mother was pregnant with me, my father was not there. He didn't want to be with my mother. So by him not wanting to be with my mother, he was rejecting me in the womb.
Oh, wow. Yep.
I later learned that my mom told me later on in life that when she was pregnant with me, she didn't want to have me. She didn't want to
Oh,
have another baby, right?
wow.
Because at the time when she had my brother, she was so gung ho in love with my father. But by the time that she got pregnant with me, the love was gone.
The
And
love was
so,
gone.
yeah, the
Oh,
love was gone. So she didn't have anything to pour into me. And so I was born into that. I was rejected from the womb. And so I
yeah.
never really fully understood until about 4 years ago how all of that played a part in my own life. And so you going through that whole inner healing process, just as I had to go through as well, helped you uncover and unlock some of
Mhm.
those things to help you so that you would no longer stay on a path of rejection and abandonment, but heal from it so that you could then heal others. So let's talk a little bit about the place that you got to where you finally said, enough is enough. I'm no longer going to neglect myself. I'm going to start taking care of myself. And all of this had come after you essentially said, I'm done with this marriage. I have to now focus on me. So what were
Yeah.
some of the things that you did to get into a place of now focusing on Shaqwana's needs, and learning your identity, who God had called you to be? And before you answer, I'll say this: if you have any questions, any comments, feel free to share them. We're talking with Shaqwana Reed, the author of Recipes to a Healed and Happy Life. And I want you all to comment, ask questions, because this is an interactive experience. And Shaqwana is ready to answer anything you have to share. So tell us about when you decided, I don't want to neglect myself anymore. I want to love myself. What did that look like? Walk us through that.
Oh, so let me tell you how the realization came about of that. So after the separation, like I was saying, I was in my own place for the first time, because I moved right out of my grandmother's house and moved in with him. So I had never lived alone, like, ever. So now I'm in the grocery store, and we always like had kids. We raised so many children, so my house was always full. Um, Now I'm in the grocery store. I'm in the cereal aisle, Stephanie, and I'm like, okay, let me go grocery shopping for my new apartment. I get to the
Mhm.
cereal aisle and I look and I go, I know
Mm.
what everybody else likes.
Ugh.
I had no clue
Mm.
what kind of cereal I like.
Wow.
And I had a meltdown in the middle of Publix, and I had
Mm.
to run out. And it was at that moment where I said, I gotta get to know me.
Yeah.
I could tell you each one of our
Mm.
godchildren what was their favorite cereal. I could tell you what I would have bought for him. I could tell you all up and through that store what everybody else wanted. I knew
Yeah.
nothing about Shaquana.
Oh my God.
Listen,
Ugh. Jesus.
I would leave out of the grocery store with 2 carts full of food. I left out of there with 2 bags
Wow.
because I had no clue what I wanted. I had devoted my whole life on making sure everybody else got what they wanted and
Mm.
never catered to myself. And it was at that moment where I said, you know what? I got to get to know me.
Yeah.
Um, I
Mm.
started taking myself out to eat. I remember going on vacations, just little trips, quick trips
Yeah.
to Orlando by myself for the weekend. And people thought it was strange,
Mm.
but it was so freeing. And
Yeah.
at that point, that's when I really started dating myself. I started
Yes.
dating myself because I didn't know me.
Mm. What did you, in that dating process, dating yourself, what did you discover? What did you discover were your likes, your dislikes?
Well, I went back to the stuff that I love to read. So
Mm.
I remember one holiday weekend, I think it was Memorial, I can't remember. I was over in Orlando and I took myself out. I can't remember the restaurant, but it was like a nice restaurant. And I
Mhm.
just sat at the table and ate and read a book. Like, it felt good to be in poetry. Like, a
Yeah.
lot of people know poetry was my first love. Like,
Mm.
I love to write poetry. I was able to write. I was able to just sit at the beach and just sit there and listen and
Yeah.
hear, because that's my place where I hear from God. Like,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
could just, it was just so freeing. But just dating me, I made sure that I took the time out regularly to just, even down to shopping for myself,
Yeah.
like clothes shopping. That was so hard. Like, I felt so guilty for the longest, spending money, my money on
Wow.
like, oh my gosh, I wonder if I could use this money to help somebody. Or I wonder, like, listen, oh my
Mm.
gosh.
Look, what you say right now is setting somebody free, right? From that place of feeling like they have to devote everything of who they are to everyone
Yeah,
else and leave nothing for themselves, right? We always hear you cannot pour from an empty cup. And
mm,
at that place in your life, you were an empty cup, but you were still trying to pour, and you had nothing to give to others. So that's a lesson for all of us to always remember to pour into ourselves. First,
yes,
pour into God, and develop that intimate relationship with him so that you could then pour into yourself. And then in the pouring into yourself, you have so much more to give other people. And I'm so glad that you walked through that in that dating yourself process. And I date myself all the dang time because I'm like, I had to get to a place where I'm like, I love myself, right?
Listen, when I tell you, when I found out how unapologetically dope
Yes,
I was,
that's
like,
it. And I love
listen,
that
I
shirt.
was
That's
like,
right.
girl, you good. Like,
Yes.
like, but
Like,
what's
we're
funny is
beautiful. We're kind.
I had got to the point to where I was like, oh, I'm good. I don't
Yes.
even want to, I don't ever want to be married again. Like, I just fell in love
Mm,
with me. Those were
yes.
the words I spoke. But
Yes. We know. If we know you, we know that that's not what God had for you, because we
that's
could say
not
that
what
all
he
day.
had.
That's not what he had for you. Look, I'm divorced too. And I always said in the beginning, I was like, I don't ever want to get married again. Maybe I'll have a companion. But then the Lord was like, girl, shut your mouth. Shut your mouth.
Right. Hush your
Because,
face.
yeah, hush your face, because I do have somebody for you. You just have to be patient and wait, right?
Yeah.
So you said you see when you first love yourself the way that God loves you, there's no way that you will accept anything less from others. And what was that journey like of learning that God truly loved you? He loved you beyond love, that allowed you to get to the place of saying, I'm not settling for anything less. I'm not
Yeah.
settling for anything less. What was that? What was the trigger point? What happened where you realized, God, you really do love me,
Yeah.
and your love is enough?
So, what I was saying earlier, I have been bound by religion. So the one place where you think you're supposed to go in
Yeah.
and get like some peace from what you're going through, and then you walk in and basically, you're getting rebuked, you're getting
Yeah.
told what you're doing wrong,
Mm-hmm.
what you're doing wrong, what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing wrong. Um, and I remember going to visit the Center for Manifestation,
Mm-hmm.
and I sat all the way to the back because I was like, because it for a year, this is somebody who was born in church, baptized at the age of 5. For a year, I refused to step foot in anybody else's church, because of some series of events that had happened after
Mm-hmm.
I left. And I was
Mm-hmm.
like, I'm never going back to church. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
okay. But that was what I said because of her. And I remember being invited by like a lot of people to go to the
Mm-hmm.
center for me. I was like, okay, I'm just gonna go, because I remember my grandmother every Sunday she would get up and she would say, "You're not going to church?" And I'm like, "Mm-mm." And
Mm-hmm.
I knew she was praying because she knew that wasn't me. Like, I didn't miss a service. But when I got to the Center for Manifestation and I heard Apostle Mark preaching about he was talking about how there's nothing that we could do to make God love us anymore or any less. And it was funny because he said something about that song, 99 and a half won't do.
Won't
And
do.
like, where's the meter? Like, that's not even biblically sound. Like, what do you mean you got to make 100? How do you know you're gonna make 100? Would that be like this thing on the top of your head to let you know? And he was like, y'all, please stop that foolishness. But
Yes.
it was just hearing him
Mm-hmm.
week after week just talk about God in a way that I had never. All I knew about was the angry God that was waiting to beat me
Yeah.
down, that was
Mm-hmm.
waiting to punish me, that was waiting to tell me what I was doing wrong. But to hear Apostle Mark talk about God and his love,
Mm-hmm.
like, that was so freeing for me.
Yes.
And yeah, that was 20 2010, the end of 2010.
Okay.
Been there. I've been there ever since.
Ever since riding out with the Lord at CFM.
Listen, that's home. That's the
Yes,
home to
that
me.
is home. That is home. Now, even during that journey of learning about God's love and really discovering what his love looked like in your life, you also went through a season of forgiveness where you didn't just have to forgive all the people who had hurt you, but you had to forgive yourself as well.
Yeah.
And it becomes easier to forgive
Mhm.
others, but it can be very challenging to forgive ourselves, right? And
Yeah.
so what were some of the things that God had shown you? And even in the process of thinking about the people that you had to forgive, what did he show you that made you say, you know what, I can do this. I can forgive. Because I can give you specific examples of what God had to say to me for me to go back and forgive. And even ask for forgiveness, right?
Mm-hmm.
I went and I forgave my stepfather, my former stepfather, and I asked for his forgiveness for some experiences that we walked through when he was, in my family's life. I
Mm-hmm.
went and I asked my ex-husband for forgiveness, and that in the flesh was difficult, but
Oh
I knew
yeah.
in the spirit that it was going to take me higher for me to be able to go through that. So what was God showing you at the time that you went through and said, you know what? I gotta forgive. And you you said I was like the Oprah Winfrey of forgiveness. You were passing out forgiveness everywhere. What was that like for you?
So what's funny is what really so I've never been a person to be able to hold a grudge. And that is funny
Mhm.
because I always feel like that's never been my issue. But this situation, my God, I felt like, how do I forgive that? Like, how do you forgive? And then it's just like stuff kept popping. I kept getting more stories, and this person knew about it, and and I was like, how do you forget? Like, what? Huh?
Mm.
And so I remember, it's clear as day. I was watching TV or something, and I remember God saying, "Forgive, because you weren't perfect in that marriage."
Ooh.
What?
Yeah. You're like, wait, let's reverse that. What'd you say, God? What? Rewind.
Excuse me? You talking to me?
Right.
Yeah, I need you to forgive because you weren't perfect either. And that really, because growing up, let's keep it real, some of us were taught that there were some sins that were bigger than other
Yes.
sins. And if you did this one, then you up here. But if you did
Yeah.
this one, you down here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But when the Lord began to really talk to me about me
Mhm.
and about forgiveness and showing me, my parts that like
Mhm.
I didn't know how to be a wife. I was
Yeah.
19.
Yeah.
But I just was pointing the finger, pointing the finger, pointing the
Mm.
finger. And when he took that finger and pointed it at me and
Ooh.
showed me some of the things that I did that I don't want to say caused it,
Yeah.
but I mean may have helped
Contributed.
the
Yes.
decisions that
Yes.
were
Yes.
made. And I was just like, yeah, like sis, you had become haughty.
Mm.
Like
Wow.
it was like, oh, I'm the one make all the
Ooh.
money. It was just stuff that he really broke me down. It was like, yeah, ain't no right, Alicia, ain't no
Yeah.
big sin. Sin is sin.
Sin is sin is sin. Period.
And when he broke that down to me, I knew
Wow.
I had to forgive everybody because if I wanted God to forgive me for my parts, then I
Ooh.
had to forgive everybody else.
Yes. Oh my God. That piece right there, if you wanted to be forgiven, right? So
Yeah.
you had to forgive, and
Hmm.
you had to take yourself through a process of literally going back and be like, okay, God, I got to forgive this person for this person for that, this person for that. Like you literally got to list it out. And even on
Yep.
my own forgiveness journey, I made a list of people that I needed to forgive because I
Yep.
needed my breakthrough, and I was locked up in unforgiveness and I didn't even realize it, right? And
Wow.
even as I went through and I began to forgive all of those people, I asked the Lord to show me, what would I need forgiveness for in the
Yep.
situation,
Yep.
right? What would I need? Because it wasn't just about me saying, I forgive you. And some people, you don't have to go to them and actually say, hey, I forgive you, but you need to forgive them in your heart, right? Now,
Yep.
there are other people that God may tell you, go to that person and ask for their forgiveness and even be specific about why, right? And even as you go before God about those people, you got to be honest and say, you know what? I need to be forgiven for some stuff too, because like you said, hey, I was haughty, right?
Hmm.
I was angry. I may have said things that were disrespectful, and that could happen sometimes. You say some things that are disrespectful out of a place of anger, but in order to heal, truly heal, forgiveness is one of the biggest pieces. But you also talk about that three-pronged approach, which is forgiveness, deliverance, and healing,
Yeah.
right? And that is not just about forgiveness. And deliverance and healing are not all the same. They're three separate entities. So
Yeah.
tell us what you had to go through to get deliverance and then get to that place of fully healing so that God could bring you some of the greatest blessings in your life.
So goes back to chapter 1, the pan sauteed acceptance.
Yes.
I had to one accept that it happened. I had to accept, and not just that, I literally had to go back all the way to childhood.
Yes.
Um, and just accept that there were some things that happened that I had no control over that I can't go back and change. So to sit in them and to wallow in them and to allow them to ruin my future would be stupid on my part.
Yeah.
This is how I literally had to have a tough conversation with myself. So after I accepted, and I'm gonna tell you, and I say I don't hold grudges, but once I started going through the whole acceptance and the forgiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and I asked myself, why? Like, why did you even allow yourself? And God allowed me to remember being 10 years old. And I remember being in like this summer camp program. And I remember there was a boy that was mad because I had beat him in a spelling bee or something
Oh,
like that. I
Lord.
can't remember. And he was like, yeah, you may be smart, but you so ugly. Ain't nobody gonna ever want to marry you.
Lord Jesus.
I had to go back and snatch those words out of my
Yes.
soul because
Ooh,
um, truth be told, that
God.
was a part of the reason why I think I stayed so long because those
Yeah.
words were saying, "You so ugly, ain't nobody gonna ever want to marry you." So
Yeah.
like, well,
Ooh.
somebody, you better stick with it. You better, you might as well just stay. This the best you're gonna get. Like,
Ooh.
um, and I was afraid. I was so afraid of letting it go. Even when I knew I no longer wanted to be there, I was still afraid to let it go because that I remembered those words. And then the enemy said, and now you 30. Who
Ooh.
gonna want you now? You done gave away all your good years. Like you might as well stay. And then
Mm.
I remember when I would leave, and he would say the same thing. Ain't nobody else gonna want you. You'll be back. You know,
Ooh.
just yeah, stuff like that. So that really made me realize that I needed to be delivered, not just from the
Yes.
situation I was in. I needed to go back to that little girl that
Yes.
was never affirmed,
Yes.
was never told that she was anything other than her brains, because I was always praised for being smart, but
Yeah.
nobody ever said, "Oh, you're beautiful." All I ever heard was, "You too dark, you too
Yes,
this, you
girl.
too ugly, you too
Yes.
tall, you know,
Ooh.
you this, you that," and I didn't have anybody to counteract that. So
Yes.
I realized that not only did I need to forgive everybody, but
Mm.
I also needed to be delivered from those wounds. And
Yeah.
then after that, I didn't even know I needed inner healing, right?
Mm.
So a few years before the book, like a year or two before the book,
Mm-hmm.
every time I shared my testimony, I would have dreams like the situation had just happened.
Yeah.
Like, and I mean vivid dreams, like the dreams of me chasing them down, fighting, cursing.
Yes.
And I'm like, God, I don't even
Mm.
curse like when I'm awake. What is
Yeah.
this? I reached out to D Reed and I was like, D, can you
Yes.
help me? What does this mean?
Mm.
And she said, your soul went through PTSD. And I was like,
Yes, God. Mm.
my soul
Yes.
went through PTSD. She said, yes. Um, your soul went through something very traumatic and you never
Yes.
allowed it to heal. Yes, you were delivered from the
Yes.
spirits that were attached to everything that happened to you,
Ooh.
but you never allowed your soul to heal. And
Yes.
that was life changing for because I had never heard of it.
Jesus. Yeah, and Alicia, I just saw a comment said, right, the words create roots in our soul, pull them up. And you
Pull
said
up.
earlier that you had to snatch those words
Yes.
out of your soul and going through. And look, y'all, I told y'all, Shaqwana and I have shared some similar experiences. And Dr. D. Reed,
Yes.
Dr. Lanurl D. Reed is the one that
Listen.
literally pulled pulled us up out, right? Of that place that was so hurtful in our soul, out of that place of PTSD. Like, I'm so grateful for her. I know you're grateful for her. Shay says,
Yes.
when does recipe to thriving in a healed and healthy life come out? Oh, okay. We're going to talk about that later. We'll talk about that later.
Why
But
would she do that in front of you?
yeah, see, that's what happens when you get a whole bunch of authors and stuff in here. They want to start
She
asking you when
made
your
me
next book is coming out.
sick.
Yeah, but we're gonna wait for that later. We're gonna talk about this PTSD, right? How these words created these deep, deep crevices, these painful places in your soul, and you had to go through some inner healing to pull that stuff out. Now, tell us a little bit about what that experience was, because you
Oh,
said, and girl, when I start highlighting, and I don't know if y'all can see this, but I highlight and underline something. This thing said, I had to open wounds so that, oh, I had to open wounds so that fresh air could hit them. I had to allow my wounds an opportunity to breathe so that healing would manifest. Okay.
yeah. Oh, I told you you weren't gonna make me cry tonight, Stephanie.
Yeah, you making me cry.
So yeah, there was oh, thanks, sugar.
Oh,
So there were things that I thought, like I said, I thought they were healed.
mhm.
So I had moved past them. Unbeknownst to me, those wounds had just been bandaged.
Yeah.
And it was
Mm,
kind of like somebody who allows a bone to heal
mm.
in the wrong position.
Oh, Jesus.
So I had to go back and break that bone again
My God.
when I realized that it was coming at me in my dreams. Because I'm saying every time I witness, and I'm witnessing the women, like really
Yeah.
giving them my story, right? Like really telling them you can make it. Guess what I went through? You can make it.
Yeah.
Not knowing that every time I told my story, that
Mm.
wound was seeping. And I'm
Ooh,
having dreams. I'm going off. I'm cussing. I'm ready to fight. And I'm saved. So I'm really
yes.
confused.
Ooh,
And me and Dee had to walk through and snatch the bandage off, re-break those bones, cut those wounds open. I had to go through that hurt all over again. I had to relive it. I had to cry through it. I had to walk through
God.
it. And I really had to open it up so that everything that I thought was
Mm.
healed could be healed for real, for real.
Ooh, Jesus. Look, I get emotional, y'all. Alicia says I'm about to run in here. I get
Listen, listen.
emotional. Break it again. Yes, because I'm just hearing Shaqwana tell about her inner healing journey. It takes me through my own. And I'm telling you, y'all, this thing called inner healing is so real because we do not realize how
Mhm.
deep the wound is. We don't realize when somebody cuts us, right? That it just
Yeah.
doesn't cut the surface. It goes deep, deep. And we got to
Yep.
go into that deep place to go heal that thing, right? So that you don't get that scar tissue. Mhm.
Yep.
That scar tissue up under that cut where you thought I was healed, but then you wonder why I still got this pain right here. It's because there's
Listen.
scar tissue, there's residue that you didn't heal. And so that
Yep.
inner healing process is what goes deep, deep down into the crevices to
Yep.
get to the place of fully healing. And God have mercy. Just
Because
hearing
that's
you
when you
talk about it.
know it's healed or if it's not. If you can
Yes.
poke that wound and it
Woo.
still hurt, it has
Yes.
not been healed. And I do wound checks every now and
Yes.
again. I do
Woo.
wound checks every now and again.
I
I
want you to tell somebody, how do you do a wound check? That's so awesome, right? Doing a wound
yes.
check. Because we got to make sure that thing don't still hurt.
Right. Let me tell you, there are times where I have to sit and I think about some of the things that I've experienced, and I
Mm,
make sure that when I think about it, I talk about it, I pray about it. If I still
mm,
feel some type of way, I don't care if
mm.
it's a little inkling, then that
Yes.
means that something still need to be healed. But if I like
Yes.
now, I feel no type of way. Like,
Woo.
um, you know, I've apologized for my part. He's
Yeah.
apologized. I have nothing, no ill feelings at all.
Yes.
Even down to having to forgive my parents. Like
Yes.
I had to forgive them from the grave. So
Woo.
I had to really learn a different level of forgiveness.
My
Um,
God.
yeah,
My God. Oh my God. I just look that whole wound check and even just the whole look, God allowing me to see the scar tissue, he helped me realize, yeah, when I poked a part of my body and I was like, yeah, the pain is still there, but there's a wound still there that I have to go and do a wound check on. So I want y'all, if you are in that space right now where this is bringing up something for you, it means it's time to do a wound check and you need to
Yes.
see what's still there. What residue is still there, where's the wound still seeping so that you can go and get your
Mhm.
healing. And we'll put Dr. D's information in the comments later on as well. So if you need some inner healing, you can run on and go see Dr. D, because my gosh, she'll
Yes.
get you to that place of inner healing that you didn't even understand anything about. Now, Shaqwana,
Baby, listen.
I want you to talk about how you got to the good parts, right? Like this, the dessert now, where you got the inner healing, you did the forgiveness, you got the deliverance, and you're like, my God, and you loving yourself and you're dating yourself. And all of a sudden, the door opens to some blessings that you did not anticipate. Words that
No.
you spoke over yourself about never getting married again, words that man has spoken to you about you would
Yep.
never ovulate. Jesus, tell us the
Listen.
good stuff and the blessings that God had in store for you when you walk through your inner healing deliverance
Yeah.
process.
I literally remember when I went through deliverance. Z Reed was also my deliverance coach at
Mm-hmm.
CFM. I
Yeah.
remember it being her, and I think it was I can't remember who else was in the room. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sorry, but I just remember hearing them say, once I get through this, that my womb was going to be open. And I
Ooh,
laughed like Sarah, like,
yeah.
child, I am too old, right? That's what I felt.
Yes.
But literally, I had no desires to be married again. And me and my husband now, we knew each other from when I was a teenager. And so we both were going through kind of a similar situation at the same time. We were going through some hard times, and we found each other.
Mm. I see her. I see her. I see
We
her peeping
found
up.
we found each other to be friends, and throughout their friendship, it
Mm.
actually grew into what we have now. And
Amen.
then to be told my whole life that I didn't ovulate, I was gonna need to have fertility treatment. I was gonna have
Mm.
to do this. I had just became okay with it.
Yeah.
There was a time where I really wanted, but then there was a time when I was just like, okay, I'm 35 now. I'm not gonna pray for a baby anymore. I'm not gonna.
Mm.
We're just gonna travel. We're gonna live. We good.
Yeah.
Then at 36, I go for a checkup, and she said I can't do
Mm.
a checkup, and I was like, what's wrong with me? And she was like, you pregnant.
My God. Ooh.
I was like, she lying. I went home and bought FOMO. I was like,
Okay.
"There's no way. That was somebody else's urine. Like that couldn't have been."
They made a mistake. They took the wrong urine. They did the
Yeah,
wrong
she
blood
was
test. That's
born
not
on
me.
our 5th wedding anniversary, and I'm so sorry because I tried to keep her out. I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Look, we love her. Hey Pooh, we love you. She wanted to let us know she's in the place because mm, she's a part of your she's a part of your blessing. That's why she had to show up
That's
at this
towards the
point.
end. At least she
Yeah,
waited to the
she
end.
waited to the end. That's exactly right. And she is truly a testament of when you heal, the prayers
Yes.
that you pray, and even the prayers that you don't even think you praying, right? Because sometimes we have those prayers that are deep in our soul that we don't even want to whisper because we don't want the enemy to hear it. But
Yep.
God knows. And he
Yep.
knew you had 20 some odd God children. You are a
Yes.
nurturer. You are a mother. And God
Yes.
said, I am going to open your womb, Sarah,
That's
in
what he said.
your unbelief. I'm going to open your womb for you to be able to give birth to your own child because you have loved everybody else's child, right?
Yep.
And that's even for the person who you have helped everybody else birth their purpose. But
Hmm.
God says, I'm going to open your womb for your purpose to come forth. And so, whoever that's for, I need you to hear that. He's going to open your womb for your purpose to come forth because somewhere along your journey, somebody told you that you didn't matter. Somebody told you that you would never be able to do X, but God is saying that you will be able to do
Yeah.
that and far more than you could ever imagine. So those words, just like Shaqwana said earlier, you got to snatch that stuff up out your soul so that it
Yeah.
does not delay or distract or take you off target from your destiny. And that says, Amen. Open the womb. Oh,
Yes, I
Jesus.
am a living,
Whew. Open
and
the
I'm a
wombs,
living
Lord.
testimony. I remember the what he kept
Mm,
whispering to me, because not to prolong the time, but when I first went and saw the first doctor, the OBGYN, she said, well, you're above maternal age. You have
mm,
type 2 diabetes. You
Jesus.
this could happen and that could happen and she could be born with this. You do have the option still to abort.
My God, Jesus.
And I looked at her and I said, ma'am, I thank you for your medical medical information or whatever.
Opinion.
Her. Yeah, your medical opinion. I said, but there's no way God made me wait 36 years for me to kill what he has given me.
Ah,
There's no
Jesus.
way. There's no way. And I knew it was a girl because I had
My
already,
God.
and I was like, there's no way I waited 36 years for me to
Ah.
kill what he has given me. And I kept hearing, I have not forgotten you.
Ooh,
Even
somebody
when
put that in the comments. I
he
need somebody
didn't,
to put that in the comments.
I had forgotten me, but
Jesus.
he hadn't forgotten me.
Ah, God. God has not forgotten you. And there's no way that you are going to abort or kill what God has already put in your spirit, what he has put in your, when you know God put it
Yeah.
there, there's no way you can abort it. There's no way you can kill it. Now, the stuff we put in there ourselves and we know
Yes.
God wasn't in that, that's a whole different story. But when God stakes his claim in you and he said, I am putting this in you, this baby, this purpose, this life, this dream that I'm putting in you, there's no way you can abandon it, abort it, destroy it. Oh my God. Thank you. Thank you, Annette, for putting that in the comments. There is no way you're going to abort or kill what God has put in your spirit. And this, oh, Shaqwana, I thank you. I thank you. I thank you.
Amen.
Um, as I mentioned to you all, every chapter is titled based on a recipe that Shaqwana shares. And she sums this whole book up with her chapter on stir fried strength. And she talks about how she had been, people had been telling her, you're stronger than that. But in her mind, she felt like she was weak. But she had to get to the place
Yeah.
of forgiveness, deliverance, and healing.
Mm.
She had to get to the place of stirring all that stuff together, all the things that the enemy had put in her path, all the things that God was showing her, all of the things that she had walked through. She had to stir fry that thing up to get
Yeah.
herself to a place of realizing that she was stronger than she ever would have imagined. And this woman is living proof. She is a testament of God's goodness, his grace, his mercy, and his love. And so I would encourage you all, run and get this book. When you see us running the stuff across the screen, here's the book, Recipes to a Healed and Happy Life, Shaqwana M. Reed. We're putting her information on the screen. You can go in the link, you can click right on it and get a copy. This book is experiencing a rebirth, y'all. This book is experiencing a
Another
rebirth. Yeah, like you wrote this book back in like 2019,
Yeah,
right?
I thought the
And
book
here
was
it is.
done.
You thought the book was done, but we already know the book is not done. And so, as your fellow sister has shared about the next book, and we don't know what God is stirring up, but you do,
I
right?
do.
We do know that there is another book. That's something we've been talking about for the past
Mhm.
year. And I know that God has something else that is very, very specific to your assignment.
Mhm.
Yeah, your assignment that He wants you to be able to share in the written format, because it's also going to propel you to another platform that He's going to be taking you to. And so I just want you to continue to allow him to stir up in you
Thank
every
you, girl.
single gift, every gift that he has placed inside of you, because you have more than, your baking business, right? Which is ecstasy delights, which That thing is coming back, baby. I'm so happy.
Coming back.
It's coming back. I said,
And
look,
you know what's funny? It's coming back so that I can have time for the second book.
amen. Amen. I said, look, when you said it was coming back, I said, whoa, this is rebirth. Oh, rebirth season for you.
Yep.
Rebirth season. And so that's for somebody else too, where you thought that there was something that died in you, that there was a dream, there was a vision, and you said, you know what, I'm gonna put this to the side. This maybe has seen its last leg. No, God said there's a rebirth coming, right? And so do not lose hope. Do not give up hope because there's a rebirth coming. And I am so grateful. Hey, Pooh, hey girl. How are you?
Hi, Stephanie.
How are you doing? Tell us what else, Shaqwana. What else do you have coming up on the horizon for us?
So yeah, so like right now I am really focused on Sister Lift, my
Yes.
501c3. That's my heart, that's my
Yes.
soul. Women, if you can join Sister Lift, the group on Facebook, and we're getting ready for our annual retreat in June. We're going to
Yes.
Atlanta, our Woosah
Yes.
weekend. This is year 5. So I'm
Woo.
excited. This is co-ed and God is doing some amazing things. So yeah, but
Amen.
that second book, Shay, it's not going to be about thriving. God is going to have me talking to them barren
Yeah.
wombs in that.
Ugh. Yep. Yep. Yep.
He's going to have me talking to those barren wombs, and that
Yes.
how the word barren is not so sweet. So this one will be a dessert book.
Ooh, Jesus. Yes. Yeah. I've been waiting for this book for a year. We've been talking about this, and I
I
am
know, Stephanie.
I am so, so glad to hear that God is giving you the space and the time to be able to write this
Yes.
book because it is definitely a necessary book. I saw Monica had put up a message. She said, I'm ready for the rebirth. I'm ready for the rebirth. And it is rebirth season. The rebirth is coming. Woosah weekend is coming, y'all. Definitely follow Shaqwana. Shaqwana, share, and we're running it across the screen, but share where folks can connect with you, especially if they want to know more about Woosah weekend. Sister Lift, which is a powerful, powerful organization. Women, if you're not already a part of Sister Lift on Facebook, the Facebook group, get in there. Sister Lift Inc. Get in there.
Yes, it's
Request to be
Sister
a
Love
part of it.
King.
Yes,
You can
because it's
follow
a
me.
go ahead.
Sister Love actually has Facebook and Instagram, but if you just reach out to me on my main page, I'm very responded. Just through Shaqwana Reed, and I can send you the information for Sister Love for Couples Night Out. That's the one that me and my husband do once a month, where we get with a group of couples and we make sure that we have a date night at least once a month, and it's a group date night. And we have an annual retreat for that also. We have a great family.
Excellent. It is truly a powerful organization. I love it. I'm so grateful of the support that we as women receive in there.
Yeah.
And ordained minister Shaqwana Reed,
Soon to be pastor.
soon to be pastor. Hallelujah. She will be shepherding the sheep, and I'm so grateful. My
Oh,
God.
girl. Pray
The
for me,
next
Stephanie. Pray
Oh, I
for me.
pray for you all the time. The next layer of where God is taking you. And I'm so honored to see you on this journey, to be a part of this experience with you, Shaqwana. You amaze me. You inspire me. Your story has always inspired me, and I am grateful. I thank you for being a
You.
part of Storytime with Stephanie. I thank you all for joining. For those who are watching live, for those who will watch on the replay, hey, share this out in your networks as well, because I want everyone to go get recipes to a healed and happy life. I want y'all to buy this book. I want y'all to cook the recipes and tell us all
Me
about your
too.
experience
Tag
to
me in
share.
them.
Yet tag Shaqwana, because these recipes, I'm telling you, be ready to put on some weight. But also be ready to some weight, shed some weight by putting into practice the principles that she shares in this book about how she was able to overcome some of the deepest and darkest times in her life. So, Shaqwana, I honor you. I bless you. I thank you for
Thank
being a
you.
part of Storytime with Stephanie. Thank you all for joining. This has been a wonderful experience, and I pray that God bless you, Shaqwana, bless your organization, bless everything that your hands touch, bless little Miss Michaela and Chellis, and that God will just continue to propel you all to the places that He has for in store for you. So thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. God bless you and good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.